Jill Evans, Plaid Cymru MEP. What is the problem when it comes to plans to connect North Wales to the national grid?
Well, National Grid launched a consultation process in October last year, and people on the island are, of course, extremely worried about the prospect of massive pylons being erected to carry the cables across. And they felt that in this consultation process they would have an opportunity to express their views on the preferred method of transporting the electricity, and what they prefer is undersea or underground cables. Obviously this is an area of outstanding natural beauty. You have the Menai Straits, the Snowdonia across the water. It's an area that we need to really preserve. We need to make every effort to ensure that the environment isn't disturbed.
And from your understanding, was that option given due consideration, do you think? Has European law, in your view, been broken?
Well, the evidence that the residents have given to me, the people who've been taking part in this consultation process, was that even though the cables were mentioned, the underground or undersea cables were mentioned, that National Grid have always put forward pylons as their preferred option. And so they feel that whatever their views, that the pylons will be the result at the end, and that it's only a matter of which of the four routes the pylons are erected on, rather than whether they have cables which are not visible from the land. And so in terms of EU directives, there are very strict rules for consulting, proper consultation. We've seen it so many times. I've raised this issue many times with the Commission, that bodies say they will consult with people, but actually it's not a proper consultation. They aren't really listening. And in this particular case, the evidence that I've had from the residents who have brought it to me seems to suggest that that has happened. I've asked the Commission to look at that, because at the end of the day, what we want is the best option for Anglesey and for the North Wales coast. It's not about stopping anything going ahead. It's about the best option for the local people, and that shouldn't just depend on the cheapest option.
You've written to the European Commission about this, and in that letter you refer to the letter of the law, really. You refer to certain articles within that law that seem to require consultation and the public's involvement. Do you feel strongly that that hasn't occurred to the required degree under European law in this case?
Well, the evidence that I've had from the residents says that they weren't presented with each option on an equal basis. There was always a preferred option put forward, and then there were other options which were cited as more unlikely in terms of the increasing cost that they would incur. And so if not all options were on the table when the consultation process took place, then I think that is not in line with what the European Directive says, which is that members of the public should be consulted when all options are open, and not when some options are closed off or are suggested as not equal options.
There have already been discussions and complaints at a local level about this issue. In your view, has National Grid as a company been listening to those complaints to the extent that it didn't require you to bring this to the attention of the EU?
Well, there's certainly been a lot of meetings. There's been a lot of information put out. There have been meetings with lots of different bodies. There haven't been meetings with others. There are others that haven't been consulted, such as tourism agencies and so on. So this is still only stage one in the process. But from the response that I've had from the residents in Anglesey, what they felt was that there needed to be a lot more attention given to the need for proper consultation. I will be speaking to National Grid, of course. They are aware of the issue that I've raised with the Commission, and I will be speaking to them. But I think it is important that even at this early stage, or more importantly at this early stage, that we get it right, and that the people who are going and taking part in the process are not just heard, but they really are listened to, and their views do count.
As I said, you've written to the European Commission. What kind of reaction, what kind of response do you want them to provide that will back up your argument? You know, ultimately, presumably, try and get this changed.
Yeah, well, I hope that that's what will happen. I hope that the Commission will respond and will set out very clearly what is required in terms of consultation, what real consultation means. And then we can ensure that the people who do take part in the process are satisfied that their views have been taken into account.
You've asked the European Commission to investigate. What powers does the EU have ultimately that could come into play here?
Well, I think because of the early stage of this, we're not even at a planning application stage. So I think at this stage, what I would hope is that there would be discussions and that the process would be made very clear. Of course, the European Commission has powers, but that's a long way down the line. What we're talking about here is making sure that the process is done properly.